Azog pushed the dwarves all the way back to the doors of the mountain. There's no way that they're a threat. They're going to lose.
Where's Thorin? We need him. Where is he?
You have Thorin Oakenshield entering the fray, but when you say that, he's not entering with an army. There's just 13 of them.
How you really show them turning the tide in any way that's vaguely realistic, that was a challenge.
What the hell does Thorin do? How does he change these events?
One of the problems with the adaptation of the Hobbit film from the book is that there's a moment where Thorin and his 13 dwarves leap over the parapet and they sort of swing the whole battle. In a book you can get away with, especially a children's narrative like The Hobbit. But visually in a movie, where you're visually seeing a valley full of 15,000, we just couldn't think of a way to do that. That's what I call a battle. That's what you call a battle. Amazing what a difference 13 dwarves can make, isn't it?
Historically, in real battle situations, a very few number of people can make an enormous difference to the outcome of a battle. The expression "the thin red line" comes from a small group of Highlanders facing the Russian heavy cavalry. The Russian heavy cavalry are coming downhill at full charge, going through a line of 2 deep. And they stood there. And the fact they didn't move turned the cavalry. The cavalry wouldn't advance. But all it would have needed was a couple of them to go, "Sod this, I'm off." And so, seeing those 13 guys come out of that gate, that is a massive injection of morale into all the other dwarves that are there.
To the king!
Having said that, we can't go out there and just kill orc after orc after orc until there are no more left.
There's too many of these buggers, Thorin. I hope you've got a plan.
What we wanted to do is to create a target, a single target that Thorin could go after.
We're going to take out their leader, Azog.
By making Azog the mastermind and the general, then if you take him out, cut the head off the snake, then the rest of it's going to fall apart.
So that's why we spent half the battle putting a lot of emphasis on Azog directing operations from Ravenhill.
More! More!
Azog's character is the brain of the army, and he's the most dangerous player on that battlefield, even though he's not directly on the battlefield itself.
Azog is a very modern commander. He's not down on the battlefield mixing it up with his troops, whereas Thranduil and Bard and Dane are down in the thick of things, risking, death at every second. He's up in his command post and making sure that it's going the way he wants.
Bit like what you imagine Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. He's up on a hilltop somewhere, giving directions to his lieutenants who go out, and he's like the chess master who's got an overview of the battlefield. He's just watching it all unfold and pushing his pieces into play to sort of outsmart the enemy. So it was important for us to establish Azog as the commander, but now you've got a problem because you're in a world without radios or walkie-talkies. How does he actually tell his armies what to do?
The best way of doing that was to turn Ravenhill into Azog's command centre for the Battle of the Five Armies. And Peter's idea would be there was some kind of signalling device that he would have. I came up with a drawing in which I had some kind of weird shapes, but also using fire. I thought the flaming structures would be quite a useful way of being able to see clearly some kind of signal. And Weta Workshop worked on some ideas for these semaphore devices, sort of kind of based loosely on what I'd drawn.
This kind of semaphore apparatus that could, raise and lower its arms and be visible from the battlefield.
And also the logistical question. The orcs arrive very suddenly, but Azog just seems to be there already with this quite elaborate structure. Not quite sure how and when that actually happened, but I don't think you question it.
We just chose to do these big semaphore flags because I just felt it was the most effective thing, and it was a visual thing, and he gives a command, the guy pulls a string, the flag raises, and then the army in the valley moves. It just felt like a very simple 1, 2, 3 kind of beat. Having established Azog up on the hill, and that's our target, but then how do you actually get there, because you've got like 10,000 in a pitched battle between you and him? You know, do we have Thorin just walking through the battle? Excuse me, come on, excuse me, I'm trying to head here, make way, you know. Do you do that, or do you just have to get him up there? Well, let's have him jump on the back of a goat, or let's have the guys grab a chariot, because that's a way that they can just bash their way through and get up there.
We're on the mocap stage and we are doing the chariot ride. It's a chariot pulled by 6 battle rams. It's already been shot by Peter, so he's got his cut, he loves it, and this is part of the problem. We had various shots where they were entirely digital, cutting into plates and then back out again. So that's why we need to replicate everything that the live action actors did exactly on the mocap stage.
The 4 of us have been standing in front of the monitors, watching the original plate shots, and just sort of going through it. Okay, he ducks here, he looks over this shoulder, this arm's up or down.
Looking right as the chariot flew into the wall.
What is really problematic, though, is when you have 4 actors and you need to give them unique direction each. I can't talk to 4 people at once, so we've devised a system where we are broadcasting 4 separate feeds into their ears, like presidential security men.
Start swiping your sword at them. Downward slice as you hang off the back. You lean right as the chariot slews. And then you start cranking it, moving it left and right.
The chariot sequence may sound like a fairly singular kind of sequence, but in fact, in terms of scope, it's a massive sequence. It's as big as any other sequence we've got in the film.
It's one of those action sequences that could stand alone. We've got trolls coming in with maces and smashing into things, and we've got ogres being decapitated, and you've got this giant iron chariot rolling over ice. To get that sound was a bit of a challenge because we didn't really have a lot of ice available in Wellington. We decided to rent an ice rink up in Auckland, and we went up there and we bought some barbells, you know, weightlifting bells, and we had a frame to sort of attach these barbells to, and we rigged up some sort of pulley system that it just went screaming across the ice as fast as it could.
There came a point in the battle where we wanted to stay at Ravenhill. We're down to the nitty-gritty.
I think some of my favourite war films come down to very intense, personal battles, which is what we actually deliberately did at the end of this film. Even though you have these vast armies fighting each other, in the end it comes down to these characters, one-on-one, face-to-face.
Pete really loved the idea of the Fallen Tower, the sort of set piece for Bolg versus Legolas.
Well, it could be, the ravine could be here, of course. There could be a tower kind of here or somewhere which falls and wedges itself in here. It'd be nice if it was in front of the frozen waterfall. Yeah.
I just had Bilbo, you know, scampering across it and, you know, falling apart while he's being pursued. But instead, Peter decided it was way more interesting to be used as a dynamic set piece for a fight.
I mean, what's interesting is the way that the tower would be crumbling. It would be like a series of, you know, bricks, stones that are just starting to fall away. So it's like it's eroding itself. Gravity is just collapsing and falling away until there's hardly anything left.
So with a character like Legolas, who, you know, he can do amazing things and he's been established as having near superhuman ability.
Legolas fights in a stunt-based fighting style. He's able to almost defy gravity and slide down elephant trunks and everything imaginable.
The elves sort of had this magical, I guess, magical gravity, which is taking back to Caradhras, where he's walking on top of the snow.
Everybody's wading through this waist-deep snow, apart from Legolas, who's able to just walk across the top of the snow because he's light enough that he won't punch through the surface. It's established that elves are light. I think that's something that Tolkien did write about.
I think the one sequence in the Battle of Five Armies that comes to mind is when the tower starts falling away from underneath him,
where he's able to use the inertia of these giant blocks that are just starting to fall. It's pushing the boundaries of what we're prepared to believe, but the animators have a setup where they can make sure that anything that's falling in their scene is falling at the rate that gravity determines. To help sell the moment, we played around with the speed of the footage. We're able to review the footage at normal speed, as we're seeing here, and so we can check that the simulation of the blocks is working at like a one-to-one basis, and then we can also review the footage at half speed, the way it's going to be seen in the final film.
Pete had always said, I want the battle to be in the snow. I want the battle to be the middle of winter. You start off in Hobbiton in the spring and you go journeying into the summer and then gradually into the sort of cooler autumn. By the time you're in the Battle of Five Armies, you're in the middle of winter.
I mean, if we're going to do frozen lake stuff, you've got to sort of have things floating and bits of ice flow sort of broken up a bit, don't we? I mean, there's no point having a thing on the frozen lake if we're not doing stuff with ice cracking, and stuff flipping.
Yeah.
I'm a great fan of Alexander Nevsky, which was Eisenstein's classic medieval battle film. We see a cavalry charging across a frozen lake, which of course starts to collapse, and the knights are kind of fall into water in these very dramatic scenes.
It's also just a horrible environment to have to fight in, pushing your way through water. It slows you down, it encumbers you. That's just a really, really powerful visual.
Sound speed. Okay. At the moment, we're doing motion capture with Manu Bennett, who plays Azog. And, like a year ago, we shot Richard doing his half of this fight. And now we're doing mocap for Manu for his sections of the fight.
And back forward. It's been a strange experience because I've never actually had to fight against Richard Armitage, but basically act without the actors there. This is where stuff gets serious.
Yeah, that's nice. Should we try another one? Most of this is tying into cameras that we have already shot. Like, we've literally got to take this and actually reverse engineer it into the live action cameras. So I just want to concentrate on the choreography of Manu at the moment. Make sure that what he's doing is going to line it up with what Richard's choreography was. It's tricky stuff. So is it what's the order? It's a swing. It's two ducks.
Yeah, 2 ducks, a sway,
and a vertical.
Time to go to war. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, action.
So Bjorn's a big favourite for a lot of people. He's an embodiment of nature and a powerful force.
In the Battle of the Five Armies, he comes in and things change, it's like Bjorn's here, oof, it's all different.
In the book, of course, he is the character that in fact turns the tide of the war.
Nothing could withstand him, and no weapon seemed to bite upon him. He scattered the bodyguard and pulled down Bolg himself and crushed him.
We did want to see a big battle with Beorn and it all being this whirlwind of sort of fantastical violence.
It's pretty explosive and dynamic stuff. Beorn Bear just doing his thing. In the theatrical release, we did get a few shots of Bjorn being deposited into the battle and really just causing some carnage.
But a lot more shots that we had been designing for the actual theatrical release didn't make it into the film.
With the lack of time, we don't have time. Weta doesn't have time to get Beorn in the film for the release.
It'll be short, violent, smashing, bashing. It won't be ultimately very long in terms of screen time.
Okay. Coming to the end of the theatrical edition was an interesting emotional roller coaster for us.
It's been a tough few weeks. It's been probably the hardest and toughest post-production on any of these 6 films that we've done.
This film, we were so up against it. Time-wise, I've never been in a situation where deadlines would come and we would be working just to try and get it out there.
I thought we had more driving.
Don't panic, don't panic.
At that point in time, we were really pushing forward towards, trying to get to the finish line of the mix.
Well, mix like bastards. It's like the hounds of hell are upon us.
They are.
Peter was trying his hardest to get the best possible movie on the screen.
We're still in a situation where there's a lot of shots to come. Peter's shooting a lot of camera work in these areas.
It's right shoulder back. Should we just do one last one for luck?
Cool.
Yeah. Well, we're close to the end because it's premiere in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I don't know, sometime like that. I don't know. Well, it's actually the 5th of November today, Guy Fawkes Day. Sounds like one of your fireworks going off. Were you out there with your bloody tape recorder last night?
I missed it.
It's like being on death row in here. Every day's the same.
Yeah, we know.
You start getting into the world of, limited amount of time for getting it, rendered out completely.
There were certain constraints. Running time would be one of them, I guess, but also just the amount of time that we had to get the film out. So there were things that Peter wanted to put in the film that he didn't get the opportunity to put in.
It was sort of what we were after, but it wasn't 100%, but we ran out of time.
By the end of this week, I'm going to try and delete about 6-7 minutes of the movie.
It's about where you want your resources spent in those final weeks before releasing a film, and by removing certain scenes, other visual effects shots were able to be concentrated on. And these were major set pieces that actually came out of the theatrical edition. In many ways, they were much more key action pieces than anything that had come out of previous films.
My biggest sadness on the film was not getting to see those shots of elves and dwarves fighting with each other in the theatrical release. That was one of my big memories from the show, was sort of telling the entire animation team we're actually not doing them, but we were more than halfway through them at that point.
We probably worked on the chariot for 6 months. We worked hard and, made it look really exciting and cool. I was sad to see that go.
I remember being at the premiere. I turned to my wife and said, they've left out the dwarf chariot. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed that that wasn't in the theatrical release. I was a bit gutted. Because it was such an enjoyable scene. And I know there's only so many hours in the day, and even Peter Jackson, who only probably sleeps 2 hours a night for years on end, can only accomplish so much.
We tried to put the chariot sequence in there, and what happened is we ended up cutting it down, making it shorter, losing this gag, losing that gag. I just got to the point where I just said, no, wait, stop. This chariot sequence, which was kind of cool once, has now been reduced to virtually nothing. So I just said, listen, let's save the chariot. Let's do the chariot in its entirety. Every single gag we ever thought of for the chariot, let's do that as a big sequence in the extended cut.
We put a lot of stuff on hold, so we'll come back to it. Some scenes that we were some of us a bit sad to see go and not make it into the film. We're very happy to see come back for the extended edition.
Good morning.
So we have completed film 3, the theatrical release, and we've all had a big Christmas break and a rest, and now it's 2015 and we're not finished with Middle-earth yet. We're back on deck to finish the DVD extended edition.
We're right back into the heat, back into the battle ourselves. We're fighting. We're fighting for the film.
So the extended edition so far, I think it's running at about 380 shots, which is considerable. I mean, some visual effects films, that's their entire visual effects shot count. So for a DVD, that's pretty massive.
Without the coffee machine, this film would not get made.
The extended edition has everything in it that Peter ever wanted to put into film 3. So there's some extra gag scenes with the dwarves, which are a lot of fun, which sort of build out their character. It's not just action sequences and gags that Peter's putting into the extended edition. Some of the material that he's putting in really expands the story. There's a big extended battle sequence between the dwarves and the elves.
So you'll see that the battle is actually quite different story-wise than it is in the theatrical version.
In the extended edition, by the time the orcs arrive, the elves and the dwarves have actually already started to fight each other, which, is quite a different thing.
I mean, literally bows twang and arrows whistle in the book, if I'm remembering rightly. So there is a volley, but it's not perhaps as physical as Pete shows it.
This is the formidable elven archer barrage that, must be the fear of all armies in Middle-earth.
We only saw it fleetingly in the Helm's Deep battle, the efficient killing machines that was.
The 100% guaranteed successful killer volley of arrows coming over.
We've all seen arrows go up in the air and guys hide behind shields, and, it's like, well, you'd think that'd bring something else to the party. You're going to go and fight an enemy that's going to lob arrows at you the whole time. You design something that would disrupt as many of those as possible. So, I sort of described an idea to Ignacio Pena, who's one of our previs artists.
Yeah, that's feeling a bit better. This is sort of the proof of concept idea that we came up with without really thinking too much about the science of how the thing loads and stuff, but Pete responded quite well to the idea.
These ballistas that have these giant crossbow bolts, and as they fly out, they splay out 4 bolts that are hinged and spin.
We could think of no name for them, so we just called them Twirly Whirlies.
Hey, how do you like that? The old twiddly whirlies? Hey, you buggers!
We've invented a weapon that they should have invented in the Middle Ages.
The Dwarven army has this incredibly well-trained, kind of finely honed cavalry unit.
My favourite line is "Send in the goats." Send in the goats! Which I'm sure no general has ever yelled in battle before.
The idea with the Dwarven cavalry was to give the dwarves another form of combat.
And along the way, the idea of using rams came in, these big sort of mountain goat-like animals that dwarves could ride on and could be incredibly sure-footed over rough terrain, and also are just bullish and unstoppable once they get moving, because that's a dwarf, right?
The extended editions of all Peter's Middle-earth films are the definitive versions of those films.
Is that it? Are there any more?
What we're creating here is the legacy version of the film. They contain the complete story that Peter wants to tell.
This is the Battle of the Five Armies that I originally, always had in my imagination. This is the battle as it should be.
It sort of feels like we're going out on a bang. We're leaving Middle-earth with a really significant battle that I think everyone will have this feeling of satisfaction that we've done our best stuff here in kind of the last big foray into Middle-earth.
Everything's approved.
We just finished, yeah. Actually, last night we wrapped up the final 3 shots in the extended edition material. I think over the next few days it's going to really start to sink in that that's it, for us. After 15, 20 years.
This is a very cool piece of technology that was actually developed here in New Zealand.
We're done in Middle-earth here at Weta Digital.
Coming to the end of it, that is the end of an era. The stories are there, the world's on film, and it's something that you can keep coming back to, but we'll never live inside of it the same way that we have for these last 17 years.
The way Weta has changed is actually the whole film industry in New Zealand has changed. It's gone from this very small thing to a top-notch film crew that would compete with any film crew in the world.
As a child, I would have thought, we would never have a movie industry that could do large numbers of visual effects. And epic filmmaking on this scale, that's the great thing that Peter was able to bring and, believe in and create out of sheer determination and self-belief.
I'll look back on these films personally as a great experience, but I think it's a series of films that have put New Zealand on the world stage and have shown not only what we're capable of as a filmmaking community, but how amazing our country is. They've just been 6 films that have just really changed a nation, I guess. Is that too bold to say?
We made it! That's what Great!
So, we finished Fellowship, we finished Towers, we finished Return of the King, and
Here we are.
Well, here we are.
Over 6 films, there are so many moments in there that are some of the most fun times I've had in my life. And it was spent with good people.
It'll take an hour to get
These will always occupy a place within us as films that you can look back on and go, wow, well, yeah, no, we did work on these films. Because they will stand the test of time and we'll still be as proud of them as we are now.
Excellent. Anybody else got anything?
No! Is it us finished?
That's it finished.
Wow, Jesus Christ.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Thank you, gentlemen.
When we finished, it was almost anticlimactic because we sort of, wow, it hasn't sunk in yet.
No, that's great. Good. That's
Well,
good.
yeah.
That was all pretty painless, really, wasn't it? Well, it was for me.
Yeah.
You're talking about the last 15 years?
Good. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you very much. And ladies. I'll just take them around the back.
But it was a nice goodbye.